How's it going, guys? I'm Dustin with Harkey's Racing, and today I want to talk about postseason. You hear everybody talk about how important postseason is, that they're going to get X, Y, and Z done during postseason, that they're excited for postseason because it'll help them improve whatever this, that, and the other. But what is postseason and why is it so important? So right now, I'm going to get the truck out of the race trailer, and then we'll have some room to talk about what is postseason and why is every single racer excited about postseason. That's better. Alright, so, postseason. Well, first off, let's talk about last season, okay? As much as we wanted to get racing done, the first event that we raced the truck in, we blew it up. We borrowed a buddy's truck. We raced that truck. We blew it up. Not necessarily our fault. We had no control over the trucks themselves prior to that. So it's kind of just something you risk happening. Okay, so we ended up, a buddy of ours agreed to sell us a truck. So we bought a new engine. Well, okay, bought a junkyard engine. I put a lot of work into that engine to make a good engine, and eventually we got the engine in the truck. Fought electrical issues for a while. Finally figured out the electrical issues right before the last back-to-back races of the season, which were the Halloween races. We went out to those. If you were watching our videos, you know we were leading up to that. I rewired the truck the night before the races, and then, yeah, we got out to the races. We didn't do terrible. Okay, this is a setup that all we did was swap an engine in. We didn't do anything else, and we still ended up getting, I think, 8th and 6th or 7th. I got to check the second day official results there. So we can't say we did too bad, okay? And this is a truck that just simply not tested for us, okay? We got the engine in, and the first time it ran was loading it into the trailer. We got it to fire 4. It has never been timed. I timed it off here. And then we still did decent as far as running a truck. There was an incident where we almost ate a wall head on. The track was absolutely terrible, and somebody blew their engine up right before I went out, and I didn't know about it. So I lost control and kind of slipped the track. Over the night, everyone kind of tried to avoid those spots, which caused a really slick, slimy spot on the entrance to turn 3. Entrance to turn 3, I kind of lost it, came down across the track, and was going straight at the wall, and I caught it last second. So that was terrible and terrifying. But we're here to talk about, postseason and what does that mean and why it's so important and why you hear about it all the time towards the end of a season and why we're excited for it, okay? So first off, it's important to note that most race teams are not professional race teams, and by that I mean that most race teams can't give a true 9 to 5 or more every day towards a car, and they don't have a set of 12, 15, 20, 25 dudes who are devoted to that car every single week from morning to night. Most people don't have that. Even most teams that you think are professional race teams, they are not. They are hobby teams, or they're ones that are trying to put a lot of time and effort into it, but they can't necessarily devote their entire time to it. So that means when something happens, say a crash or say a small failure somewhere, and it doesn't stop the car from going, in most cases they will not deal with that at the time. For instance, buddy of mine got T-boned in the rear end and it crinkled up the corner. Now, while that's crappy and it doesn't look great on the truck, he might not repair that for the season because it does not affect the way the truck drives. But with that being said, even professional race teams have their limitations on what they can get done in a week. And in most cases, when you're racing 4 points, or when you're trying to make sure you get out that next weekend, you'll avoid certain things in order to make it out, okay? For instance, if you want personal examples, on this board behind me, this whiteboard, there was a huge list leading up to the race. And there were some things on there that I wanted to get done, like flush the rear end of the truck and fix my winch in my trailer, which is frayed. And I bit the bullet on certain things that were not have to get done right now and can get done later. And that's what happened. I went to the racetrack and I didn't have winch in my truck, so I drove the truck in, which I'm not big on. I like to winch everything in. But I drove the truck in, and it was the hope that there wasn't enough damage at the end of the weekend that I could drive the truck back in, because I might not get back in. The water in my trailer had frozen over the winter and blew out the filter. I really just need to redo the filter and plumb everything back in. But for the weekend, let's drink a bottle of water and not have me put those 2, 3, 4 hours into repairing the water system in here. So you weigh your pros and cons, and you do this all season. So all season you're going to do this with everything. You know, you might have a battery that's not doing great. Well, I could buy a new battery, but it's fine. It'll work for the race days, okay? You might have, it's just little things, okay? They add up. And postseason is the time to do that. So what's postseason look like for us? So going back to our truck, where'd it go? Where's the truck? It's over there now. Going back to our truck, the first thing that I absolutely need to do is I need to remove resistance from the wheels, okay? I'm not going to put more money into an engine for a budget series. I believe that kind of takes away from the series. Once you get into people putting a bunch of money into series, the entire series has to come up with it or becomes an unfair advantage. I think I will bite the bullet and keep a lower performance engine. It's funner, okay? I'm racing harder to try to keep up with the fast guys, and after looking at the times from the weekend, I'm not that far behind, and that's fun to me, okay? So I'm going to take out resistance out of the wheels, okay? When we lifted one of the wheels up to do some repairs to the exhaust over the weekend at track between day 1 and 2, I noticed that when I spun the wheel, it ground to a halt. Now, this is something we've seen in the beginning of the season. Well, the first time I drove the truck, where a brake was starting to drag and kind of lock up, so you couldn't easily push the truck. So it could be brakes, it could be wheel bearings, it could be all sorts of things. But it wasn't necessarily something that I'm going to strip apart between races if I only have a couple hours to work on the truck a week, or whatever you want to say, when time restraints are in place. So postseason, and this is one of the things that it's like, well, postseason, we'll take care of that, we'll come back next year a lot faster. If I was racing for the lead, if I was racing for points this last season, it would be a different case. But that's where you start to sacrifice your time for speed, and that wasn't the case for me. So, step 1 on our list is going to definitely be the wheels. Each and every individual corner needs to be rebuilt and gone through. The rear end needs rebuilt and gone through, and I kind of count that as the same thing. It needs flushed. Now, when we flushed the trans, I noticed a lot of metal shavings, but it still is shifting fine, so I don't think I'm going to worry about that at all. But I definitely want to address the rear end. I definitely want to address those brakes, and since there's no brake booster and it's just running mechanical force brakes, I definitely want to make sure I have brakes because of this instance where I just went straight at the wall, but also I want to make sure that I have zero drag whatsoever anyway. So the rears on that's going to be drums, and the fronts are going to be discs. But here's another question now. We do circle track racing. Do I want more rear brake bias so that way when I hit the brakes, I can kick the rear out? Do I want that? I might want that. Okay, so there's a lot of ways too we can work on retracting those brake pads a little further away. Obviously the rears use spring, so I need to make sure those springs are not too worn out. But I need to figure that out. Okay, I need to remove that resistance. In my belief, I believe that removing that resistance will cause such an advantage that it's my focal point. Second thing that I'm going to worry about right now during the off season is some body work. I despise that the truck is matte black. It was matte black when I got it. I have not changed the color. I have not changed the numbers. I have not changed anything. And I despise matte black. I think it looks cheap, and I just don't like it. So we are going to change colors by next year. I'm not sure what exactly that means. I want it to look nice. I'm thinking about doing maybe a classic or traditional Ford two-tone. I think that might look nice. I think I need to look through some of the other Ford Rangers, see what's out there as far as designs. I like the idea of making it look like a race truck with a full wrap kind of design, and I do have an industrial vinyl cutter, but I do also do airbrushing and other things like that. We could do some pretty cool effects, but we are going to address the bodywork. One thing for me that also means is the front end at one point in time looks like it was removable, like 6 bolts, 7 bolts, or 6 or 8 bolts, and remove the whole front end. That's no longer the case. It's now riveted together. I think I would like to go back to a removable front end because when the truck does come in, it's kind of nice to be able to do a quick take the whole front end of the truck off, and now you can physically work on everything very easily. And looking at it, it looks like that used to be the case. So I think I'm going to go back to that. I mean, I get the idea of having the riveted panels be sturdier, but I don't really care about sturdier on the front of the truck or the front end of the truck. I care about having it easily removable. And a lot of my repairs would have probably been a little easier if I could actually access the engine. This also helps with cooling. When I bring a truck in, a lot of people bring them in and shut them down, and I'm guilty of that. You know, right off we're going from startup, we let it warm up when we're sitting in line, we get out there, we're full throttle, we come in and shut it down is not the ideal situation. You want to let it run a little bit. So I think removing everything off of there and letting it get some more air would really help the cool down process, including the hood and everything. So I think that's something I'm going to go back to. Again, mainly for accessibility when working on stuff or making adjustments. I mean, I can pop the hood off and lean over a fender, or I can remove 6 bolts and take the whole front end off and just reach in there and do the repair. So that's another thing. Bodywork. Bodywork's a big thing right now. I can run a wing. Do I want to run a wing? Kinda. Will it give me an advantage? I don't know. Maybe, though. I mean, we are running 50, 60, 70 mile an hour on a circle track, a dirt circle track. Every advantage will help. Big thing with that is side. We all know side load and drifting really can straighten you back out. A wing can with proper sides can really straighten you back out because you have more resistance in the rear, push the front back around. I might want that. I need to figure that out. But the first thing I need to do again is a little performance. The third thing, going to performance and engine, is I got to get it in the proper timing and proper fuel. I'm running a little short on that, okay? Again, I timed it by ear to get it to run. We got to the track. I added a couple more degrees into it to get it to not bog coming out of the turns, but I'm certainly not maxing out the truck. Okay, I can kick it in coming in, and it can hold fine through some of the turns, but I'm not at a point yet where I can be on the throttle the entire time. That's where I'm at. Okay, I'm not in a point where I have to let off coming into a turn. So that says a lot. I mean, it was a bigger track. Don't get me wrong, but I talked to a buddy of mine who had the fastest lap time of the night, and he said that he was absolutely letting off in 3 and 4, and I was not. Now, I wasn't doing great in 3 and 4, but I wasn't running it like he was running it, or like some of the other guys were running it. So it tells me that I need a little bit more top end on it, so I'm going to work on that as well. One of the things we're doing for that is I have a later year head which is an 8-plug head, and I can't use the head, but it does have roller rockers in it. Maybe it could help, maybe it couldn't. Looking up some of Esslinger's stuff and their engines, there are some tips, tricks, and things that they're doing that I've noticed in some of their videos, like spacers and caps and things like that, just to add a little more lift to it, or add a little more less rotational mass, and so on and so forth that I need to look at. I've heard that a lot of people are running a certain clutch and assembly that is supposed to reduce a ton of mass off, rotational mass. But it's just these things that I need to figure out down the whole truck. Start from one point, get to the other. I'll see how it runs once we get the wheels rebuilt, every corner rebuilt, the bearings themselves and the brakes, and then we'll see where we're at there. Because in my opinion, with one of our other cars, our Miata project we have back there, that car I could push, and it would, if we were on a flat surface, it would kind of roll for quite a while. And in this truck, when I would pull up to the line, I could feel the brakes dragging and coming to a stop. Even just now when I pulled it out, I could feel those brakes, like the trailer already is tilted back. When I had all the tires pumped up, it probably should have just rolled out on me. So there's a lot of drag, and that needs to be addressed severely. Okay? In the fifth, I don't know. I'm running out of what's considered a point and what's not. The big other thing is that I need to address the trailer. So that's the full, and it needs to be cleaned. It needs to be gone through. The sleeper really needs some work done. It needs a new generator. It's an old generator. It's very loud. It's very gassy, and it needs done. It needs gone through. And I need to address my truck, not the race truck, the towing truck. I about just ate it off this cord. And any of us that are in racing have done that, haven't we? The towing truck. That truck needs addressed. It's getting old, getting beat up. I'm keeping it, but it's a Cummins with like 230,000 miles, and it's just to a point where like the brake system needs rebuilt, and the trans is starting to have a little kick going between gears. It just needs addressed, okay? It needs gone through. So that's absolutely going to have to happen on the off season, because again, you don't want to have a race come up and your truck's still apart, okay? That's just the simple reality of it. So that's the importance of the off season. The off season is to button up all of those loose ends that you kind of either can get by without doing, so you don't do it because other things need to get done, and the things that just, they don't necessarily bother you, but you have to do them, but they need done, okay? For instance, right before this event, I went through, this is a rollout box, and it has, all the tools that I might need out there by the truck. Missing a couple sockets. That's irritating. But there's also a built-in box and storage and more storage over here, and things just aren't organized in the most ideal fashion, and that's something that I can live without. It doesn't have to happen right now, but now that it's off season, it's gonna happen. Same thing with like I have a little pancake compressor that we use for the trailer, and it's nice, but it would also be really nice if I had a compressor just built into the cabinet up there that ran wherever. So that's the importance of off-season. I hope this helps anyone that's confused or that's just curious on what really happens during the off-season and why we talk about it so much. If you're into racing, you need to get excited about off-seasons, because it's your time. It's your time when you're not rushing. It's your time when you're not thinking about like when do I have to have this back together? What all needs done? What damages happened from that last event? It's the time you don't have to worry about all that kind of stuff. So get out there, build cool things. If you're racing, especially around the Ohio area, let me know. I'll come out and visit and see you and support you. But most importantly, get out there, do what you enjoy, have fun, build cool things, and have a good day.